The voicemail arrived on a quiet afternoon, slipped between a compliance memo and a half-finished cup of coffee. 12 seconds. That was all it took. My mother's voice sounded polished, distant, like she was closing an account. Your father knows. You crossed a line, don't come to the house. We'll handle things without you. No anger, no hesitation. Just a door closing. I stared at the screen until it went dark. My chest tightened, not with shock, but with recognition. This wasn't confusion. This was a decision already made somewhere else, handed down to me like a verdict. This is an original story written by the author of the Revenge Mosaicum channel, built from familiar social issues with the purpose of helping viewers reflect, heal, and draw meaningful lessons. The content is not intended to depict any real individual. I replayed the message once more, listening for my father's voice. It wasn't there. That absence landed harder than the words themselves. If he had spoken, I might have argued. If he had yelled, I might have fought. Silence meant someone had shown him something convincing enough to make him step back. My fingers hovered over the call button, then drifted away. I typed a single reply. Understood. At work. My job was to imagine worst-case scenarios before they happened. I had built my career around locking systems down before people realized how exposed they were. As the phone rested face down on my desk, that instinct clicked into place. If you're still listening, stay with me. The next few hours would change who held the leverage in my family, and none of them would realize it until it was already gone. I opened my laptop. I waited exactly long enough for the message to settle, for the heat in my chest to cool into something sharper. Then the work began. My inbox was still open from earlier that morning, a spreadsheet glowing in the corner of my screen like it had no idea my family had just imploded. I logged into the Foster Holding Company portal, the same system I had built years ago when everyone agreed I was good with details. Back then, my parents called it responsibility. Today, it would look like control. The first change took less than a minute. My name came off the list of authorized signers. No more approvals tied to my credit. No more documents sliding through under the assumption I would clean things up later. The system confirmed the update with a neutral green checkmark. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother appeared on the lock screen. We need to talk. This went too far. Too far felt like an interesting choice of words, considering who had drawn the line first. I opened the file labeled Tarrytown Purchase and scrolled to the guarantor section. My name sat there like a loaded weapon. With a few clicks, it was gone. The lender notification followed almost instantly, polite and automated, informing all parties that the primary financial backstop had withdrawn. Another vibration. This time, my sister's name flashed. Why are you doing this? You're making Dad furious. You don't understand what this looks like. What it looked like was leverage evaporating. I moved on to the trust dashboard, the structure I had designed 8 years earlier when my parents wanted something simple to protect their retirement. It was simple. It just wasn't flexible. I froze every adjustable parameter and set all future changes to require my written authorization. By the time my coffee had gone cold, every door that led through me was closed. If you're still here, don't go anywhere. This was the moment they would later point to and claim I overreacted. It was also the last moment I was willing to be quietly used. I wasn't in the room when my father opened the folder, but I could picture it anyway. My mother liked order, tabs, highlights, a beginning, a middle, an end that pointed in only one direction. The first call came from her an hour after I pulled my name from the deal. Her voice sounded tight, controlled. You didn't have to do all of that. Your father is livid. Another message followed before I could respond. He feels betrayed. I hope you're happy. I knew that tone. It was the sound she used when she wanted to end a conversation before it started. Later that evening, a third message arrived. This one longer, more deliberate. We showed him everything. The emails, the timing. What you've been planning. He agrees this crossed a line. Everything. That single word carried more weight than any accusation. It meant screenshots. It meant context trimmed down to fit a conclusion. It meant someone else had told my story for me, and done it convincingly. My sister's text came through minutes later. "You really did it this time. Dad says if you're willing to cut us off, you can live with the fallout." Cut us off. The phrase sat there, bold and false. I imagined my father reading page after page, jaw set, pride wounded. He had built his life on decisiveness, on not hesitating when the facts were in front of him. If those facts were poisoned, the reaction would still be real. The last message of the night came from my mother. "We're handling this now. Give us space." Space, in my family, had always meant silence enforced by authority. I set the phone down and let that silence stretch, knowing it would not last. The email from Human Resources arrived before lunch the next day. The subject line was gentle enough to be dangerous quick check-in. The meeting invite followed seconds later. Mandatory. Documented. In the conference room, the HR director folded her hands with practiced care. "This isn't disciplinary. Someone expressed concern about your well-being. We're required to follow up." Concern carried weight when written down. It traveled farther than truth ever did. I kept my voice even. I'm fully capable of performing my role. If there's a specific allegation, I'd like it in writing. Her expression shifted, polite but guarded. "There isn't an allegation. Just a narrative we need to acknowledge. A narrative." The word landed like a bruise. By the time I returned to my desk, my phone was already buzzing. A message from my cousin Anna blinked on the screen. "People are asking if you're okay. Olivia's been telling everyone you're overwhelmed, that you walked away because you couldn't handle the pressure anymore. Overwhelmed." There it was again, dressed up as concern. Another alert followed. This one from a colleague I barely spoke to. "Hey, saw something online and wanted to check in. Hope you're taking care of yourself." I opened social media without meaning to. Olivia's post sat at the top of my feed, carefully vague. Sometimes the hardest part of loving family is surviving their control. Hearts and supportive comments piled up beneath it. Control. Survival. Words chosen to sound harmless while sharpening the knife. My phone rang. My mother's name filled the screen. "You're making this worse for yourself. People are starting to worry. Let us smooth this out." Smooth it out meant letting the story stand. I closed the app and opened a new document instead. Date, time, screenshots, email headers. Every version of the truth needed a place to live, because once a lie made it into the system, it didn't disappear on its own. This wasn't just family anymore. This was reputation, compliance, and leverage. And someone had decided to spend mine. The call came from a number I didn't recognize, flagged as a secure line. I stepped into an empty office before answering. "This is Monica Reyes from Regional Compliance." Her tone was neutral, trained to give nothing away. "I'm reviewing activity tied to the Terrytown townhouse transaction." I waited. Silence often pulled out the truth faster than pressure. "Several documents reference your authorization," she continued, "but none include a valid signature or recorded approval." That discrepancy triggered a pause. Pause was a polite word. Freeze was the reality. My response stayed measured. "I haven't approved any changes or representations connected to that purchase since withdrawing as guarantor." A beat passed. "That matches what I'm seeing. The paperwork implies consent that doesn't exist. Implication without proof was how people got burned. For clarity, treat all submissions using my name as unauthorized. Anything further will need my direct written confirmation." "Understood." Her voice sharpened slightly. "Interest replacing routine. We'll note that and hold the file. There are also refinancing requests tied to the family holding company that reference future liquidity from this deal. Those are unauthorized as well." Another pause. Longer this time. "I'll document everything and notify the relevant parties. You may receive follow-up questions." After the call ended, an automated alert hit my inbox. "Transaction status suspended pending verification." My phone buzzed almost immediately. A text from my sister flashed across the screen. "The bank is panicking. What did you tell them?" What I told them was the truth, delivered in language systems understood. I forwarded Monica's confirmation to a new folder labeled Evidence and added a timestamp. Once a lie reached an institution, it left tracks. And once those tracks existed, someone would eventually follow them back to the source. I didn't hear from my father directly, but the shift reached me anyway. My mother's voice message arrived late that night, sharper around the edges. "Your actions have consequences. The bank called." This didn't have to become public. Public meant outside her control. Another message followed. This one rushed. "Your father doesn't like surprises. You should have trusted us to handle this. Trusted us to handle it." The phrase landed hollow. The next morning, my phone lit up with a notification from Harold Bennett's office. The subject line read, "Request for clarification regarding authorization." My father's attorney. Not copied to my mother. Not forwarded by my sister. Initiated quietly. On his own. That told me more than any apology could have. An hour later, a short text from my sister broke the silence. Dad's asking questions. "Why are you doing this now?" Doing this now implied timing, not truth. I typed a single reply and erased it. Facts traveled better through channels than arguments ever did. Instead, I attached Monica's compliance note, the suspension notice, and the confirmation that no valid signature existed. I sent it to Harold, clean and unembellished. The response came back faster than expected. "Thank you. This helps clarify several inconsistencies." Inconsistencies. Plural. That evening, my mother tried again. "Please don't speak to anyone else. Let us fix this as a family." Fix meant restore the old order. I placed the phone face down and closed my laptop. Somewhere between anger and certainty, something in my father had shifted, and once that happened, no amount of smoothing could put the story back the way it was. The meeting took place in a borrowed conference room at Harold Bennett's office, chosen for its neutrality. No family photos, no home field advantage, just a table, 4 chairs, and a clock that ticked too loudly. My father arrived first. He didn't look at me right away. The weight in his posture felt heavier than anger. My mother entered next, lips pressed thin, already braced for battle. Olivia followed, clutching her phone like a shield. Harold closed the door and spoke carefully. "We're here to clarify facts. Nothing more." My mother leaned forward. "This shouldn't have gotten this far. We trusted you. Emily." That trust was returned with chaos. Olivia jumped in quickly. "You told me you were done carrying everyone. You said you wanted control. You said it in the car after dinner." I let the words settle. Then my folder opened, slow and deliberate. That dinner was on a Tuesday. "You left early. Rideshare receipt time-stamped 10:47. My fuel charge logged across town at 10:45. Different routes, different cars." Olivia's expression flickered, then reset. Memory isn't perfect. It could have been another night. Another page slid across the table. "The only other dinner that month? You posted photos from a bar downtown before dessert arrived." My father finally looked up. The silence cut deeper than shouting ever could. My mother reached for the papers. "This proves nothing. Screenshots can be manipulated too." "Exactly." I turned my laptop toward them. Full email headers, server metadata. The messages you showed Dad were stitched together. 2 were sent from a device registered to Olivia. "That's a lie!" Olivia's voice cracked, sharp with panic. Harold cleared his throat. "The forensic review confirms the device origin." My father leaned back slowly. The room shifted with him. "So this story only works until someone checks the details." No one spoke. I continued. Steady. "The bank froze the deal because consent was implied. Not given. Human Resources documented a concern based on the same narrative. This didn't stay in the family because it was designed not to. My mother's composure finally broke. We were protecting the family. Protecting it from whom? The question didn't need an answer. My father stood, palms flat on the table. This ends now. No more stories. No more handling. We rebuild this on facts or we don't rebuild it at all. His gaze settled on me. You should have been asked first. I closed the folder. The sound final. All I ever needed was daylight. The decisions didn't come all at once. They arrived in steps, measured and irreversible. My father's voice carried the room again. The holding company will be restructured, effective immediately. Managing authority stays with me and Emily. No exceptions. My mother stiffened. You're cutting me out. You're stepping back. His correction was calm, final. Beneficiary status remains. Control does not. Olivia's breath hitched. What about me? The answer came without hesitation. You won't be involved in any financial decisions. Not now, not later. That landed harder than any accusation. Olivia tried to recover. I was only trying to help. You know how things get handled in this family. Handled was the word that had caused all of this. My father turned to Harold. Draft the revisions. Make it clear no additional authority can be implied, referenced, or assumed. Harold nodded, already making notes. My mother's voice dropped. Quieter now. So this is it. You're choosing her. My father didn't look away. I'm choosing the truth. And I'm choosing not to lose the child who kept everything standing while we weren't paying attention. Olivia's eyes flicked toward me, searching for something familiar to grab onto. I stayed still. This wasn't a punishment. It was a boundary. The meeting ended without raised voices, no slammed doors, just a shift so complete it left no space for arguments to hide. When we walked out, my father paused beside me. This won't go back to the way it was. I met his gaze. I don't want it to. And for the first time since the voicemail, that felt like stability, not loss. 3 months later, the townhouse in Terrytown closed cleanly. No rushed signatures, no quiet assumptions, just documents that matched reality. My father and I met for dinner a week after the final paperwork settled. No folders this time, no advisors on standby. He stirred his coffee longer than necessary before speaking. I believed what was easiest. That won't happen again. The admission didn't erase what came before, but it shifted something essential. Trust didn't return all at once. It rebuilt the way systems do slowly, with checks in place. My mother kept her distance now, careful with her words. Olivia stopped calling. The silence wasn't dramatic. It was instructive. For the first time, everyone lived with the weight of their own choices. Before we parted, my father rested his hand over the table. You protected the family by protecting the truth. I carried that line with me on the drive home. Strength, I'd learned, wasn't staying silent to keep peace. It was knowing when to close a door so the foundation didn't collapse. If any part of this feels familiar, stay with that recognition. Stories like this aren't about villains or victories. They're about the quiet moment when you realize love without boundaries becomes permission, and clarity is not cruelty. I didn't walk away from my family. I stepped out of a role that was never mine to carry alone. If you're listening and finding pieces of your own life reflected here, take what serves you and leave the rest. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the most powerful change begins when one person decides the keys no longer fit every door.